Okay, so linear functions can be increasing, decreasing, or constant. And so that's what we're going to talk about here. So let me slide this up a little bit. Okay, so at first, let's say we have a linear function that looks like this. Now it's linear, so it's going to be a line, and it's going like that. Now let's say we have a point here, call that the first point, and a point here, call that the second point. Well, if I wanted to go from point 1 to point 2, I would have to go up, and then I would have to go to the right. Okay? So what we're doing here is we're doing a change in y, because we're going up, and then a change in x. Now you can also write that as y sub 2 minus y sub 1, or I'm subtracting the two y values, over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. And sometimes we refer to this as the rise over the run. You may remember that from previous math classes. That is the slope. It's a line, and so in order for it to be a line, that slope has to be the same. No matter what 2 points you pick, that ratio has to stay the same. Okay? So sometimes we'll say it's the rise over run. In this case, notice that the line, as you're moving from left to right, I'll use green, as you're moving this way, it's going up. And so this is said to be an increasing linear function. When you have an increasing linear function, the slope is going to be greater than 0. It's going to be positive because you're rising, right? So you're going a positive amount up, up, and then you're going to the right. And so that's a positive over a positive, which is positive. Okay? So that's why it's an increasing function. Now let's say you have a line that goes like this. Now you're probably already guessing that this is going to be a decreasing function. But let's look at it a little bit here. Let's say we have a point here and a point here. Let's call this point 1 and this point 2. Now it doesn't really matter which you consider point 1 and which you consider point 2. I can show you that. But we'll just, for now, we'll say this. So how do I get from one point to the other? Now remember, you're going to do your vertical movement first. So you're going down so much. Oops, a little too far. And then you're going to the right. So we're going down, and then we're going right. Not really rising this time. But that's going to be negative. You're going to get a negative number here and a positive number here. And so the slope is going to be less than 0. Okay? So if you have a decreasing that linear function, or if you know the slope is negative, those two things relate. So if it's a decreasing linear function, the slope is less than 0, or the slope is negative. Okay? Let's see. Let's say you have a linear function like this. We already know that's the constant function, so it's probably not too surprising that it's constant. It's not increasing or decreasing. But if you want to think of it in terms of the points, points 1 and points 2, point 1 and point 2, well, if you want to get from point 1 to point 2, how much do you go up or down? You don't go any up or down, 0, right? How much do you move to the right? Well, as much as it is, right? So some positive amount doesn't matter if it's negative even, because it's going to be equal to 0. So when you have a constant linear function, the slope is 0. Okay? All right, so this is usually how I tell students to remember it. I think of snow skiing, which I've only been skiing a couple of times. So when you're going on the ski lift, you're going up on the ski lift, and everything's nice, and you're looking at the beautiful trees, and so that's a positive experience. So the slope is positive. Then you start skiing down the mountain. And that's for me, that was a negative experience. It was always very painful. Okay? So slope is negative. And then here, you're just cross-country skiing. So slope is 0. You're not going up, you're not going down. Slope is 0. Now, you might remember seeing in your past classes a line that you graphed like this. Okay, that is not a function. So we're not really talking about those kinds of lines here because we were talking about linear functions. So that's like you skied off the cliff or something. But it's not a function because, well, you'd be dividing by 0, right, if you did the slope. So there's no slope. That's not why it's not a function. It's not a function because it doesn't pass the linear, the vertical line test. Okay, so this is not a function. Sorry. Okay. So I'm not going to talk about those right now.